This is Pill Talk Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Bartu Wilson, coming to you, giving you a daily dose of medicine that's going to inspire you, motivate you, and live at your full potential. Today, I have a special guest, Dr. Nicole Rankin. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And Nicole is perfectly fine. I'm not at work. So,
All right, all right. So let's jump into it. Let's get into a little bit of background
yeah.
about you and how
Mhm.
you got started. So, what was your inspiration to get into the medical field?
So, for a long time, I was a little bit wishy washy on this story. But the honest to goodness truth is, in college, I actually majored in math and mechanical engineering. And in between that time, like I did a dual degree program. I went to Spelman for my math degree, and then North Carolina A&T State University for my mechanical engineering degree. In between that time, I studied abroad for a year in Kenya, and that sort of just like got me thinking about how I wanted to do things a little bit different. I got a little bit interested in medicine just from seeing how things were done different there. And then literally when I came back, I was like in my dorm room at A&T, and I looked in a mirror and I saw myself wearing a white coat. And that was like something that just sort of like sparked like you should go to medical school. So it was never like it was this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be a doctor since I was a certain age, but that moment really just kind of put the seed in my head that no, this is what you're supposed to do.
Nice, nice, nice. That's like one of those Instagram memes where the kid is like looking into the window and seeing their future self. And you're just like,
Uh-huh.
you really live that moment.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So, what made you pick becoming an OBGYN?
So I knew that I wanted to do something with my hands. So I liked being able to do things with my hands. And I also knew that I liked taking care of women. I actually hated having male patients, no shade, but when I was in medical school, I got like hit on, and I just was like I'm yeah, y'all can do you. I want to take care of women. And I toyed between OBGYN and general surgery, and maybe going down like a general surgery, maybe breast surgeon track, but just ended up falling in love with the diversity of OBGYN and that you could do lots of different things. And it's interesting now because 99% of what I do is deliver babies. When I actually started out, I was 100% certain in medical school that I was going to be a GYN oncologist, which is a OBGYN who specializes in gynecology cancer. So I did like a full circle shift. And that's one of the beauties of OBGYN. It has a lot of different pathways that you can take.
Great, great, great. So, you said 99% is delivering babies.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess you get very attached to the mother and the newborn once they come out.
You would think that I do. So I work as I should be clear, I work as an OB hospitalist. So what that means is that I only work in the hospital. I
Okay.
don't I don't have an office practice. I don't You can't schedule an appointment with me. I do 24-hour shifts at a time. As a matter of fact, I did one yesterday. So 24-hour shifts at a time, and I do those like 7 times roughly a month. And then the rest of the days I have completely off. So when I am at the hospital, mostly I'm catching babies, and I do get attached to the moment because birth is this really beautiful, special moment of welcoming new life into the world. And it's also a nice way that even if people are from different backgrounds, even if you can't like, because we have a lot of people in our area who may not necessarily speak English, you can still find ways of connection through smiles and the joy of the moment. So literally birth just never gets old. And it's really my passion and purpose to help people have that great experience for this monumental piece of their life. But as far as like getting attached to the babies, no, I mean, they are so cute, but my husband would be like, I don't know, we're done. It's a wrap.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking about that and delivering babies,
Mm-hmm.
you have a popular podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind talking about your podcast for a little bit and how that people can get more information about it?
Yeah, so my podcast is called All About Pregnancy and Birth. At this point, it's been downloaded over 600,000 times. I started it a couple years ago, and that's kind of a short story long about how I got to start that. I initially started out in medicine thinking that I was going to do academics. That ended up not working out for a number of reasons. I wasn't right for them, they weren't right for me. I found myself needing to find a new job pretty quickly and stumbled into this hospitalist world. But I also wanted to have a way of connecting with folks because, like I said, during the shift work, I only see who I kind of see. So I wanted a way of helping people on a more not lengthy basis, but on a more ongoing basis, so to speak, where I could connect with people. And I also wanted to be able to be a source of evidence-based information, but also holistic information that really centers that pregnant woman and her experience about pregnancy and birth, and kind of combat a lot of the misinformation trash that's sort of out there, and let people know that there are some good doctors out there who want to do the right thing and take care of people, because especially in birth, maternal mortality and things like that, we have some areas to work. So I initially started out doing a blog that was too hard to keep up, and then I myself am a podcast junkie. I listen to podcasts all the time, and so I decided, like, you know what, maybe I can start a podcast. And as you know, it's actually not very hard to start a podcast. The hard part is keeping it up.
Yeah.
So, so the starting part is easy. So that's how I ended up starting a podcast. And on my podcast, I talk about, um, people come on and share their birth stories. I interview guests. I talk about topics myself, and I try to find like different sort of guests and topics and things to talk about, not just traditional things. Like, for instance, I had somebody come on and talk about, like, what do you do when you have a new baby and you have dogs and you need to get your baby and your dogs to get along. So I try to find, but I also talk about serious things too, like maternal mortality and things like that. So a wide range of topics, and that kind of feeds into my full-time online business as well, which is my online childbirth education class.
Okay. Since you brought that course up in the class, let's jump into it. So what can they learn within that class?
Yeah, so I really focus on helping first-time moms who plan to give birth in the hospital in the US. So I'm very specific in that sense, that I'm not, although I have folks who've had children before and they they take my class. I'm really focused on, I really love helping first-time moms because I know how scared they are. I know how overwhelming it can be. I know how they just don't know a lot about pregnancy and birth. And I specifically focus on hospital birth. I don't have a problem. Home birth is an appropriate option for some folks who are low risk and you have the right training and all of those things, but that's not what I know. So that's not my lane. My lane is hospital birth. That's what I've been doing for 15 years. So that's the lane that I stay in and I know very well. And that's what I help people do. I also focus on making the course very, very affordable. It's important to me. I know that having a baby is expensive. So I make it affordable and try to pack as much content in it as possible.
All right. So the course is learn at your own pace. And what's some of the things that you actually would discuss in the course if someone's listening to it and be like, you know what, I need to get this course because I'm expecting
Having a baby,
soon.
yeah. So it's all online. It's learn at your own pace. It is about 10 hours of content, and I have a process, something that I call my beautiful birth prep process. And step one of the process is to what I call set the tone for your birth. So much about your birth is your mindset. So you have to first focus on getting your mindset in the right space. So that's the first thing that we talk about, is how to get in the right mindset with things like meditation, affirmations, vision boards, gratitude, exercise, actually moving your body. And then also within that, you need to have the right support around you. So focus on how you make sure you have the right support with you for your birth. And then the second step is learn all the details of labor and birth. So that's where we get into all the nitty gritty of, like, the stages of labor, how long labor lasts, how you push a baby out without messing up your body, pain management, all of those things, all of those details of labor and birth, and specifically like what it's like in the hospital. So when you show up in a hospital room, here's what it's like, and here's how the process flows. Here's how long you should expect for labor to happen. And then step 3 is to prepare yourself for the possibilities, because birth is an unpredictable process and none of us can plan birth. Your doctor can't plan birth, midwife, you can't plan birth, your baby plans their birth and they don't tell us what they intend to do. So preparing yourself for possibilities, and that riding that, how to really be able to ride that unpredictable nature confidently. So knowing things like how cesarean works, how labor induction works, how like a vacuum or forceps birth works, all of those things. And then step 4 is learning about the postpartum period, because really having a baby is just the beginning and it's like a lifetime journey. So I really focus on helping folks through those first 6 weeks postpartum, what to expect, warning signs to look out for, because actually 60% of maternal mortality happens after birth. So warning signs to look out for, how to be prepared, the mental, the physical changes. And then the 5th step in the process is making your birth wishes. I don't say birth plan because you can't plan birth, but birth wishes, and how to do that and how to use all that information to make your birth wishes, and talk to your doctor about the things that you want so you can have that great experience. So as you can see, I get passionate to talk about my my course and my work. I really, it's a small thing that's now turned into a bigger thing, but I love it. That's the nitty gritty of my course.
Man, that's amazing. It seems like you got it jam packed with a whole lot of information that people should be able to come out of that course feeling real confident and empowered going forward.
You got it. I tell people you'll be calm, confident, and empowered for your birth.
That's great. So, how long have you been doing the course, and are people able to contact you directly if they get the course?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Yeah. So the course has been, I've had it since I did the first version in 2018, 19, and then I just re-recorded the whole thing this year, and it exploded with COVID in terms of looking for online options. As far as being able to contact me directly, one of the really important parts of the course is a support piece and a community. So there's a private Facebook group for the course where I'm in the group. I also have a community manager for the group who's an experienced doula. Someone in my community who's amazing. So she is in the group as well, because I know enough to know that I don't know everything about birth, and I know what I know, but doulas provide great support and evidence and help. So it's really important that I have her in that group. And I do Q&A sessions. I do videos in that group. People can connect with me there. Honestly, the biggest part of the group that I think people like the most is being able to connect with other pregnant moms and postpartum moms, and have a judgment-free place where you can ask questions and get feedback on things. So yes, people do have much more access to me within that private Facebook group.
Okay, great. That's interesting that you mentioned a doula. I interviewed a doula on a podcast once, and just knowing as much as how much they do for the birth and for the mother and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, I never knew that, because I guess I wasn't, I never.
You would have you wouldn't have a reason to know. But yeah, they're research backed. That they can help shorten labor, reduce pain management. They are a great addition. So yeah.
Great. So how do you have like this work-life balance, since you have the podcast? You have the course, you work 24 hours on your shifts.
So yeah, I work so I still practice full-time as an obstetrician. I have this whole complete business with the podcast and the course that is a true bona fide business. And I'm also, like you said, a wife. I'm also a mother. So one of the biggest things that I would say is to get help. I cannot do all of this by myself. And sometimes getting help before you are, you think you need it. And also before you even necessarily, I don't want to scare people, but have the money for it. Sometimes you have to find the coins, collect yourself together to invest in yourself, especially if you're doing a business. So to help grow a business, you need to invest in it. I had the luxury of still working full time, so that feeds our family and pays the bills and all of those things while I've grown this business on the side. But in my business side, I have a VA, a virtual assistant, part-time, who helps me. I have a podcast editor who edits my podcast. All I do is sit at the mic and record, and she takes it from there. I have a business manager. I have a social media person. These are all part-time people. And in the beginning, I did all this stuff myself. I even built my website myself in the beginning. I learned all of those things, but it got to be overwhelming. So definitely having help for sure is 100% how I make that work. And then setting boundaries is a really important piece as well, where I set boundaries around my time so that I put my time towards the things that I know that are important to me and make a difference for me. And then I tell people that I'm not available at certain times. And that's just, whether it's work or whatever it is. Like I have a day every week that I completely block, where there's no meetings, no recordings, no nothing for anybody, unless I decide that that's what I want. So really just setting boundaries, I think, and having help are the two biggest things that contribute to me being able to do this.
Man, that's great. That's great. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the first time someone ever said that. Normally people be like 2 phones, this and this, whatever, but coming in and saying that needing help was able to help you free up your time.
Yes, especially if you have, and it depends on what you're trying to do. I don't know how many of your folks are doing like their own entrepreneurial sort of things, but you have to think about what your time as the business owner is worth. And don't get me wrong, I didn't start this business because I was like this for the money making aspect. It's fine if that's what people want. I do this because I love it and I love being of service. But there's nothing wrong with me getting paid either for my work. Okay. So I can be paid. I can help people and get paid for my work. And what brings in the dollars is my face on camera or talking or the things that only I can do. So I have to be very intentional about, is this something that I can hand off to somebody and teach them how to do it? So I can then spend my time doing the things that generates the revenue, which actually helps everybody in the business. And it helps me to support other people working. Like my VA and my assistants, they are moms with children, so it helps to snowball. But for sure, getting help is really important.
Great. All right. So I think this might be my last question. Mm-hmm. What is your goals, what is your next 5 to 10 year goals from now? Where do you see your podcast, the courses, and yourself going?
Yes, that is a really good question. So, I have always struggled with this question because when I look back on how the trajectory of my life is unfolded, I could have never predicted like any of this. So it's always hard for me to say like what it looks like 5 or 10 years. Like, as I said, I started in academics. I actually almost got fired from my job, even as a type A person. That was a very challenging, difficult thing for me to manage. But yeah, so it's hard for me to say 5 to 10 years because I don't know. I like the openness of being open to receive guidance for whatever direction I need to go in to live my purpose. But if I had to wish, I would say for sure I'll still be doing the podcast. I would think, I don't know about 10 years, that seems like a long time, but I think 5 years for sure. Definitely still be doing the podcast and just having lots of guests and different types of guests, bigger guests, more famous people, kinds of things. In terms of my business, I 100% believe I can take my business to a point where I can back down in my clinical work. So enough revenue that I don't want to stop practicing because I love what I do, but just back down a little bit on the number of shifts that I have. And really, my long-term goal is just create wealth and generational wealth for myself, for my children, being able to have resources to have experiences, and also being able to support causes and advocate for things that are important to me and my family. So that means, stroking checks for a foundation and saying that, hey, go out and do this work. Cause I'm not like a march in the streets kind of girl. So, but I would be happy if I could to write somebody a check to support them, so really just being in tune with those things are important to me in the big picture.
Man, that's amazing. That's good. That's
Yep.
good.
Yep.
So, do you have any closing words you want to leave the listeners with before we go out? And also, we'll say that, then I got another one, something else.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I would really say that it really is a journey, and all of these things and figuring out, like, I'm at a point now where I feel very comfortable with myself and the things that I want and who I am. But getting there takes some time, and it takes some self reflection, and it takes some like creating white space in your life to kind of think, to just be open to receive. So I would say be intentional about, like, shut off your phone, shut off the TV, go for a walk, just create that sort of white space where you can have your ideas in your mind flow. And things like meditation are really important. I would also say, like, in your work, and I should say it's a constant sort of thing. Like, you don't arrive and then you're done. Like, for instance, I do things like affirmations to help me every day to get my mind set right in the morning. Like, it helps me to sort of get my day going. So it's a constant sort of learning and getting new tools to help you be your best self. But it's totally 100% worth it, and it feels good when you can get there. And then the other thing I was going to say is that you will have setbacks, and this sounds so cliche, but it really is how you manage those setbacks that makes the difference in terms of how things happen in your life. Like, nobody who or has gotten something or is famous or successful, everyone has had setbacks, but it literally is how you manage and how you learn from those situations going forward. That is what truly makes the difference.
That's some great advice. Feel like you was talking to me. I'm like, okay, that's how we doing it. So if anybody want to reach out to you, can you tell them your Instagram handles? Can you tell them how to get in contact with your course, how to get your course,
Yeah.
and how they can listen to your podcast?
Sure, absolutely. So I am everywhere at Dr. Nicole Rankins. So my website is drnicolerankins.com. Instagram is my biggest social media platform. I have about 12, a little over 12,000 followers there right now. That's at Dr. Nicole Rankins. And my course is called All About Pregnancy and Birth. You can either get to it through my website, or it's on, iTunes, all of the podcast things. But at Dr. Nicole Rankins, I'm also on LinkedIn there, Twitter. I'm just starting to get into Twitter. I'm on Twitter there at Dr. Nicole Rankins as well. That's kind of like my fun sort of place to not do anything major is Twitter. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, Dr. Rankin, for coming on Pill Talk Podcast, giving us a daily dose of medicine that's going to inspire and motivate others to live at their full potential. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
No problem.